What's up, everybody? It's your girl J Mac, and welcome back to another episode. I have with me two special guests. You already know him. His name is Varun, and I also have Sav. So, in today's episode, we're actually going to be talking about starting and or finishing a project, which this one's going to be very interesting to hear from the both of you.
Hi, my name's Varun. I'm an illustrator and a designer.
And hi, I'm Sav. I am a videographer and content creator in California.
I love the intros. I love it. All right. So, like I said, in this episode, it's more of a discussion between starting and or finishing a project. So, because the both of you do a lot of, creating, designing, content and whatnot, is there anything that you want to share to the listeners, your journey, how you did them, the advice?
Definitely. I guess on my end, I think it's easier for me to talk about starting drawings. Everyone's drawn as a kid and we kind of grow out of it. But taking that to a bigger level for an entire book or an entire piece of art, you have to definitely plan ahead. You need to have a good blueprint. You have to have a good idea. It has to be something that you can understand the steps from idea to fruition, because I've had a million ideas. I've had a million rough sketches that I've thrown away that I haven't finished. And it's only those ones that really inspire me or push me that I can really go forward with. So I think that's an important thing in feeling anxiety about starting a project. Isn't necessarily that you have the lack of skill or preparation, but sometimes the lack of motivation, because the project might not be challenging enough for your level. But if you're a complete beginner at a hobby, I say the best thing to do is just go in and get your hands dirty and be a fool. Everything you want to start, you can't be at that master level. You have to humble yourself and be comfortable as a fool. If you're not ready to mess up and be an idiot at something, you'll never really be able to start it. So I think the best thing to do, especially with a drawing, is just put the line down and worry about moving it to the right spot later. Just get your hands dirty and just start the project. That's the most important thing, is get over the anxieties.
I definitely agree because, you've probably heard around that it's like you gotta step out of your comfort zone. And I think a lot of people struggle with that, taking the leap or the first step into those foreign waters. Once you start, if you are excited about it and you're really motivated, you just have to keep going. And like Vern said, you're not gonna be perfect at the beginning, so it takes time. So don't worry about, oh, it needs to be perfect. Like, everyone started somewhere. You're not gonna be like the best person the first project you do. It's about learning. But as you're learning, that's where you gain more experience. You figure out what works best for you, and also you learn more about yourself too.
From my personal experience of just even content creating, because before I had another account where I was more of the influencer and stuff and doing content for the supplement company from years ago when Instagram was starting to pop, and the fitness industry was like the biggest thing back then. I would get anxiety in terms of having to make something perfect to try and match the aesthetic with this supplement company's grid or the athletes that they had. So I always felt either anxious, upset with myself that things didn't look right or I didn't match like the other influencers or whatever. It was like to the point where I would delay my stuff and I would blame it on myself or from other people. Like I would be like, oh no, it's the gym, or no, it's just not the right timing, or no, because of this, or people are in my way or whatever. Like I would always have an excuse to just not do things and it would get incredibly delayed. There's times where I do blame myself and I'm like, damn, if only I just went for it. Where could I have been if I was to just do it and not give a fuck? Like just start it. You know what I'm saying?
Oh, yeah.
Absolutely. And I actually used to work for this guy. He's a successful business owner in Sacramento area. I worked for him and then eventually we parted ways, but one of his parting piece of advice is just go for it. Because if you wait too long, you're gonna miss your window. So it's honestly like you can't wait till you're comfortable. You just have to go for it. Otherwise you're gonna miss your opportunity.
You know what's so funny? I had a friend who I would do track and field with. He was the one that would push me and get rid of that mentality of things need to look perfect. Because he would watch me make content and then delete everything that I was doing because I didn't like how it looked. And so like when him and I would train and like if I was to record the experience, he would say, Jen, just go for it. Sometimes people like the whole realness, or if things don't look the best, like just go for it. And gradually it took me a while to get into that habit, but that's what I'm doing now. It's just fuck it, like let me just do it. If people like it, cool. If not, whatever, I like it.
In a lot of ways, that applies to drawing as well, and like how you keep it rough and you don't worry about refining it all the way. Because one of the signs of like an amateur artist is overdoing it, finishing everything when you don't have to. You kind of only have to put the details where you want the person to see the details. You're not supposed to put it everywhere, otherwise it looks like a very gaudy design instead of a composition. It's about like, don't worry about making every single thing perfect. You let it be rough. That's kind of in your style. I think nowadays it's actually even better because you can kind of see the human element in a lot of drawings and paintings that are done with that roughness. That's, not able to be like, generated easily digitally. That's actually a good point, is you just have to get to it no matter how nervous you are. Because like Sad said, you can't wait till you're comfortable, because then you'll never start. You kind of always start with anxiety. And anxiety is not necessarily a bad thing. I've heard a lot of people talk about how nervous energy is a good thing and it can be used in a positive way. It's not all nervousness is a negative thing.
I do a lot of content too, and I do come across a lot of people who are very transparent in their videos. They'll even say, I'm anxious right now. And a lot of people can relate. But that is what helps them because they're connecting with their own community. And we get to watch their own growth from being nervous to slowly being more comfortable. You see like their body movements are different, their voice pitch is a lot different, their emotions or their mental when they're talking, like everything changes. And I love watching that from people. Another thing too, and besides just starting the like either content or just taking the risk, I also find that if you were to have like a mini schedule for yourself, let's just say 30 minutes to an hour of starting a project or getting into it, if you're in the middle of a project, might help too. It's like those mini sticky notes, like this is what I have to do today. This is what I want to try and complete. And if I don't, let me at least get 20 to 30% of my projects done.
No, same. Especially recently, when it comes to like I have to edit 100 videos a month. It's just looking in the big picture like that, I'm like, oh damn, 100 videos a month, like that's way too much. But breaking it up just makes it so much easier. Personally, as a videographer, there's two parts. There's the first part, which is the filming, where you have to go to the actual location and do the shoot. And the second part is coming home and editing everything. And the filming part was never an issue, but it was always the editing. It's just when you come home and you're like, oh my god, now I have to edit everything and sit in front of a computer. But one thing that really helped me was that, okay, like I'm just gonna sit down from like, I don't know, 10 a.m. to 2 p.m. I'm gonna try and finish 4 videos, whatever. If I finish early, great, then I can take a break early or I can keep going. If I don't finish, I probably like guilty of punishing myself for it. I'm like, oh no, like now I have to like, I can't do this now. But it definitely helps when you try and hold yourself accountable. Like, okay, you gotta get this done by this time. If you don't, maybe don't be like me and punish yourself, but like at least just set some kind of goal. Otherwise, you'll probably never get it done.
In this current situation that we have right now with the whole, our whole new path of starting the We Are Kenami podcast, the revamp and the social media grids or whatever, what's helping me right now is sharing my work with you guys.
That's exactly. No, when you say it, when you show everyone, then you have to like do it. Otherwise, you look like a fool.
I feel like it's a sense of like you're letting everyone down. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? Versus if you keep it to yourself, like no one's gonna know, eh?
Oh my God. Because everything that we're talking about, I love the energy that we have right now. But we'll be very honest, like from my own experience, from being a content creator for a specific brand that happened recently, I wouldn't say it was toxic, but I think it was just the abuse of my role. Like it was just like, yeah, I'm gonna take the video, it's gonna be quick edits, just trying to engage, blah, 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 whatever, whatever. But for some reason that role became more and more and more to the point where I had to organize their content, I had to set up dates or schedule it, try and figure out like the branding identity and all these things. Like that was not my role. That was something that I did not agree with, but I think it was also my fault for not speaking up when I started noticing these changes. I found it unfair with spending all of my day working on one clip that's probably worth 20 seconds, or one real cover post took me 2 to 3 days. I'm like, I'm wasting so much time working on this. So it made me delay, but also feel unmotivated to do anything for them. I thought I would share it in case there's anyone out there listening who's probably, starting fresh or like they're starting new into this whole path, or people who are probably going through it right now and they don't know what to do, right?
I could see Sav being in a situation like that as a videographer. They probably have you doing set design on top of everything.
When it comes to like these things, I've actually had to start like writing contracts with people because they've been asking me to do way more than like just make the videos. They're like, oh, we need you to come in, we want you to take photos too. And I'm like, yo, I just agreed to videos. But it takes a lot of courage to kind of speak up or step down from a project like that, because it's just like you're gonna have to go face to face with someone who's paying you to do things. But it's okay that if you're looking out for yourself, like, hey, you can't handle it or you just don't want to get burnt out, to just say no.
Again, I find that perhaps that was my error for not speaking up about it. Like I would just suck it up and get angry about it and get frustrated every time I got a message from these guys. It is what it is. It was an experience, a new skill set, understanding more on their side of the business and how things roll. Like I do admire all that and I appreciate all that, but I never want to be back into that situation again, you know?
I think everyone who's listening, if you're going to be a creator and you're going to be in any way or form self-employed, you will have to set your boundaries, especially in the contract. I think that's just the best way to get everything out ahead of time, is just set the stipulations and boundaries in the contract. But I think all of us are going to run into it the first time and we'll learn from it. And it sucks, but we all kind of have to. But it's best when you find someone you can work with who respects your boundaries inherently. Those kinds of, clientele and projects are where you'll probably lean into eventually.
And definitely, I think when you're working on a project, if it becomes too much, yes, first speak up if it is a lot. But if it's something that you just feel unmotivated doing, one thing that has helped me to like continue and not kind of lose my light is don't think about just the project, getting it done so you can get paid or whatever. Think about why you do it. Think about what motivates you and why you started it. Because sometimes, like work can get tedious and it becomes a lot. But if you think about the true values behind it, how is it going to benefit other people? And are you passionate about it? If you're not, if you can't find anything that you're passionate about or you don't see any purpose in working or doing whatever, then probably not in the right line of work. But if you started it, you probably started it for a reason, right? So kind of go back to the beginnings, think about it, and hopefully that will help you motivate you to try and finish things again.
With everything that we're talking about and all of the experiences that we're probably reflecting right now at this very moment, is there any other advice or tips you guys want to share? Maybe a message or something you want to, reach out to anybody that's in your niche or someone that's similar within these niches?
I would say stop trying to find excuses not to do something. Because if you want it bad enough, you'll make it happen. I personally still struggle with this, but I've overcome a lot of things recently by just breaking down those excuses and just doing it. For those who aren't familiar, I'm a travel content creator, was a foodie, but now when it comes to travel content creation, it gets costly because you're trying to constantly book trips to go film content. And so, gas expenses, plane flights, whatever. I would keep making excuses like, oh, I don't have enough money. But the way around it is like, okay, well, how can I cut back on maybe not eating out so much or not buying this pair of jeans or whatever so that I can afford to go on the trip? It's more about setting your priorities in a different way so that you can make the things that matter the most happen.
Now, that was excellent advice. I think Sav pretty much covered most of, what overcomes the trepidation of not starting a project and the anxiety of it. I think at the end of the day, what I'll say is like, it's okay to like be bad at it, just do it, work at it. And a lot of people will like it even if you don't like it. I think that's a funny thing about art is there's a lot of stuff I've made that I genuinely think is bad, but lots of people like. Just be bad at it, but enjoy it.
The advice that I gave earlier was, to write it down, probably in a sticky note in your agenda, set like little timelines or little goals you want to do for yourself when you're doing your project. Perhaps another one is if you find that your environment is too distracting and you just can't seem to even start or work the middle of your project, perhaps find a way to eliminate it, at least for like an hour or two if you can. Probably just go outside, go somewhere where you find that you're more focused, if that makes sense. Perhaps for you, the listeners, maybe it's relying on a trustworthy friend or family member where you're telling them, hey, just hold me accountable when I'm about to start this one, or hold me accountable, I'm almost done but I'm having a hard time finishing, can you just make sure I'm doing it, something like that, right?
Because that's one thing I'll say that a lot of good people do is we guilt ourselves with punishments instead of just getting to it. Because that's a good way. That's a good excuse. There's good excuses and bad excuses, you know? The good excuse is like, oh, I'll just sit there and just, you know, give myself the whole punishment over it. When it's like, you know, you don't have to punish yourself, just do it. Yeah.
Like Nike.
Yeah.
That's it. That's our inspo. It's just Nike. Just do it.
They need to sponsor this, by the way.
Nike, sponsor us, please. Also, I wanted to add, honestly, just going outside, getting in nature is like one of
Mm.
the best forms of therapy for me personally, and probably for others as well. But just going for a quick walk, even if it's just like 15-20 minutes, just getting outside, getting fresh air, and just like shutting off your phone, putting it on silent, that is a good reset. And I've noticed that's helped me too. When if
100%.
I'm struggling, just sitting in front of the computer, like I don't want to edit this, I'll just go for a walk, and when I come back, I'm like refreshed and I want to start again.
And so before we end this episode, is there anything else, or do you feel like you guys shared as much advice or tips, messages, anything to these listeners?
You know, now that you're done listening to this, get to it.
Or if you want an accountability group, you can also hop in our Discord server and, you know, we'll hold you to it too if you need that. So I guess this is the end of our episode. Honestly, between the both of you, like I've truly learned a lot. And I hope whoever's listening to this, especially when I shared a bit of my story, don't take it to heart.
Well, thank you for having us. It's been a pleasure being a guest.
This is nice. I hope we do this again.
Yes, next time.
Until next time, guys. Bye.